Welcome to Hunting Home, the podcast where we dive into all things real estate, homeownership, and the people and stories that make a community. Whether you're buying, selling, investing, or just love talking about real estate, this is the place for you. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are my own and do not necessarily reflect those of any brokerage, company, or organization. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, or real estate advice. Always consult with a professional before making any real estate decisions. Now, let's get into it. Josh, welcome to the Hunting Home podcast. I'm glad to have you back. A little different this time. We're recording remotely. Got some video on us today. And excited to have Josh here today. We're friends outside of work. We've done some business together. We often call each other and talk about our trial and tribulations in the real estate and lending business. And Josh and I were on the phone the other day. We were just talking about a lot of different things that relate to our business as a whole, and also I think how they relate to a lot of other people's industries, and how there's just so many moving parts, and how do you get your message across. So anyway, I want to give Josh some time to introduce himself and tell us who he's with, what he does, and then we'll get into that stuff later. So welcome to the show, Josh. Give us an intro.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Blake. Thanks for having me back on for the second time. I'm a little surprised you took that leap of faith, but I must have done something right the first go around. But again, appreciate you having me on. I'm Josh Yost with Churchill Mortgage. Essentially what I do is I, help to provide the financing for people looking to purchase a home. But not only that, once you purchase a home, as you know, Blake, that is one of your biggest assets. So once I have a client, I consider them, a client for life, because not only do we pride ourselves on helping people obtain their goals of home ownership, but also manage that asset over time. So the relationship doesn't, start and end with the purchase of a home. It continues, throughout the life that they're in that home, which I think is pretty special. It is transactional, but for me, it's more relationship driven and maintain that relationship long term, not short term. So, I just am very passionate. I love what I do. As you know, Blake, we make a lot of purchases in life, but I can't think of many that are more significant or bigger than purchasing your home. I mean, it's where memories are made. It's where you spend most of your time. So I just love what I do. Love what I do, Blake.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think that's something we can get back to is how many people don't remember their real estate agent's name. And that's like, I forget what the stat is. And especially when it comes to on the lending side is like so many people actually never meet their loan officer face to face. And I think that's changing in today's market and in today's world, because people they can have a Zoom call or whatever and actually see that person and or go into their office. And that's why I've always said, please use a local lender, so that if there's a problem or you have a question, we know where to find that person. And that local person also knows the ins and outs of our market, not, the nation's market. But it is interesting how it can be very transactional, but it really shouldn't be. And getting back, I know there's some stat out there like 80% of people would use their realtor that they used on their previous purchase, but that person hadn't contacted them or they didn't even remember that person's name. And like, I just have the way that I do my business, and I know that you're the same, is like, I have a hard time thinking of someone that'd be like, oh, I cannot remember that person's name. I don't even know how to find that guy anymore, because that's just not the way that I operate. And I'm just like, I know, like, you get to know those people so well, especially me on the real estate side. Like when you're looking at 15, 20 houses, you're spending evenings and weekends with the people. Yeah. You're sitting down with them. It's like you form a relationship, and then it's kind of weird. It's like once you get them into the house, I follow up with people, but it might be every couple months. and it's
Hmm.
like you can almost like it's like ending a relationship in a way. You talk to them every day, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, you guys are set. We'll talk to you in a few months.
I know, I know, and I'm the same way, Blake. Like, obviously, we try and stay in front of them after closing because I don't even really like using the term client because
Yeah,
like you said, you spend so much time with them throughout the transaction. Like, I think of them as friends or family, right? Especially since it's such a large transaction, and you know, it's funny because we have, you could say 8 to 5 jobs, but not really, right? Like last night, I was just talking to a client at 10:30 at night, right? Meeting clients on weekends. Clients might work night shift, so I've had conversations after midnight, just meeting their timeline. So, I mean, you talk about transactional. That's not transactional to me. Like that is actually forming a relationship with your client and you know, getting them to trust you, know you're in it with their best interest at heart, and then just keeping that relationship going after the transaction's complete. Like it might not be as often because we're in the heat of things. It's pretty much every day
yeah.
or at least a couple times a week.
And
But
those people
after,
don't want to hear from you every day after that. I can promise you
I
that.
know. So I'll give them a little break. Once they close, I might give them a few weeks or a month, but it's
Yeah.
fun to touch base with them, see how they're getting settled into their new home, just see what their needs are, talk about long-term goals at that point. And yeah, just maintain that relationship. Like I said, it lasts for the life of their home ownership, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, uh, what sparked this decision for this career move for you, Josh? I know that this isn't hasn't been a, lifelong career for you.
Yeah.
So, what came to you, and what brought you ultimately to Churchill?
Well, I'll touch a little bit on, a previous role that I had. I was a district service manager for a medical device company. It was a good job, Blake, but it required a lot of travel, right? I was living out of hotels, had a territory throughout the Midwest. I was traveling from hospital to hospital, and you know me personally, Blake. So I have a family, 3 kids. So there was an issue there with work-life balance, and it was pretty significant, right? So I decided it was either that job or my family. You know me, I'm a family guy, right? So obviously I'm going to choose family over work because family is way more important than work or any money. So after I made that decision, honestly, I made the decision. I didn't even have another job lined up, Blake. It was, kind of a spur of the moment decision that I had to make because, I value my family so much. But then I was like, oh my gosh, felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. But then within 24 hours, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to
Yeah.
do now? So I was honestly that guy, Blake, just scrolling through Indeed, looking at jobs and lending. I kept seeing mortgage lending pop up, and honestly, I would skim right past it. Like I figured, you needed some sort of special degree. Or I have a degree in chemistry, right? So I don't really have a financial background, but I love numbers. I'm a nerd at heart, and so I started looking into it, and I thought to myself at first, like, man, I would love to just create solutions for people to get into a home. And one of my biggest things, I've always kind of been in the customer service industry. I wanted to be in a job where I feel like I have an impact on people's lives, right? In a good way, a positive impact. And I know technically lending is technically sales, right? But again, I started thinking,
There
what
goes
is
my
the,
light, Josh.
oh,
We're
there goes
back.
the light. I started thinking, Blake, what is the biggest purchase of people make in their lives? It's a lot of times their home. And I
Yeah.
thought to myself, if I can, have a positive influence on that person, on that purchase, that would be, significant for me. I could lay my head on my pillow at night knowing I did something good for somebody else. So that is like why I do what I do. That's a big motivating factor in it. And as far as me winding up at Churchill, um, that decision came about essentially when I was doing my interview process with Churchill. Because as I've mentioned time and time again, I'm a family guy. And when I did, my sit down with the leadership at Churchill, they wanted my wife to come along, Blake. And I was like, what? This is weird. Like, I'm the one interviewing for the job, right?
Like,
But
I
they
don't want my
said,
wife to come.
yeah. But they said, Josh, we're family oriented here. This is a family decision. So everything that we tell you, we want your wife to know. We want her to be able to ask questions, and we want you to make a decision together as a family. And there's so many good things to say about Churchill, but that blew me away. That blew me away. The fact that, family does mean so much to Churchill, as well as, you know, they really pride themselves on allowing you to take care of yourself, because Churchill's main thing, like, we pride ourselves on serving others, but you cannot serve others until you have yourself right, right? Until you can take care of yourself and be in that mindset to wake up every morning and sacrifice your time to serve others. And I thought that was it just blew me away. It just blew me away.
Well, like I said, I wanted to talk a few financial things or lending things today, but I think that is a great segue into what we were talking about on the phone the other day is
Yeah.
that, I remember when you called me and you're like, "Hey, I'm looking at getting into the mortgage business." You wanted my opinion, which I was grateful that you thought of me and you valued my opinion on it. And like I always tell people, I don't want to make real estate or mortgage lending sound negative by any means. But I always like warn people. I'm like, you have to understand that it's not really what people think until you're in it. And a lot of that has to do with, first of all, getting started. But then once you're in it, the amount of weight that you carry, I think, and because when you're in the middle of a deal, a lot of times all the pressure, in a sense, if there's anything that goes wrong, it's going to be on you.
Yeah.
And I think, no matter what the situation is, there's always going to be somebody, and maybe it is my fault or maybe it is your fault. People make mistakes, things happen. But if you're not like very balanced yourself, you cannot carry that for other people because it is the biggest thing that they are doing in their life. Usually, it's a huge moment for them financially, emotionally, and everything, especially in certain situations, has to line up, like timelines, things for people moving out of one into the other. I mean, we had a deal not too long ago, and we're like, we needed a signature. We didn't know if they're going to be able to close. We had to overnight some documents, and we were like talking on the phone, kind of joking, but we were both kind of serious. We're like, if we have to drive literally to go get one of these signatures on the other side of the state, I guess that's what
We'll
we're
do
going
it.
to do.
Like,
And
yep.
so, we were just talking about how the real estate business can be very taxing on you. Um, you do have flexibility, and you do get you have to make the time still if you want to be successful for your family and those things. Like, people are like, oh, you have all this flexibility. You can do this, you can do that. True. We're, in a sense, independent contractors, and so you can do what you need to do. But ultimately, if you're not doing the things you have to do, you won't be successful. And so I always tell people, I'm like, I'm still learning that every day. And I think if you're not continually trying to be better, you're failing. And so, like, I tell myself all the time, I'm like, am I working? Am I putting in the time every week that I need to put in to be successful? Or do I think that I'm doing that? And then, am I taking care of myself so that I can help take care of other people and be level headed when it comes to those big decision
Absolutely.
making moments?
No, Blake, I agree. I mean, it's a grind, right? Like you said, we do have flexibility, which makes this job convenient for people with families like us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're still putting in the work, right? We're still putting in the work. The work sometimes doesn't fall between 8 and 5. The work might fall 10 o'clock at night or on a weekend. But as long as you, have the ability to prioritize, family first, you can make time to still serve your clients. And that's what I love. That's our ultimate responsibility, is to serve our clients. But we do have some flexibility as well. So that's something that really is a big factor in me continuing to do what I do. And I love to do what I do. But I think too, you know, I think clients can appreciate that. Most clients, I mean, all clients, they have jobs just like us, right? From 8 to 5. So they might be looking at a house of an evening or on a weekend, and it's our job to be available, right? When they
Yeah.
have those needs.
Well, and the
So
thing the thing is like, and I know that you'll probably agree, is that there is definitely a line and of
yeah,
respect. And what I see in the clients where we have really great relationships is like, if they need an answer, I'll tell them I'll get you that answer as soon as possible. Sometimes, it may not be at 10 o'clock at night, but
yep,
they're always the people that are always the most appreciative are like, hey, I'm really sorry that we don't expect you to do this, whatever. And usually those people are the ones that are not asking me to do anything that's out of the ordinary. And I'm always
right.
like, no, I mean, this is what I do. Like, they're like, oh, we want to go look at this house, but the only time we have is Sunday afternoon. I'm like, yeah,
Like they
that's
almost
literally
feel
what I
guilty
do.
for asking you, right?
Yeah, but they're
Yep.
always so cool about it, and those people are always the most appreciative. And uh, I kind of forgot where I was going with that, but it's interesting, the people you work with, and it's like, yeah, we do work outside of the normal time. Nothing's ever. It doesn't have to be crazy. I mean, there's answers that I'm not going to get at 10 o'clock at night, or
Exactly.
7 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be during the day probably, but um, I've had, when I've asked people to write like testimonials and stuff, it's like one of the things that I see and it helps me be better is they're always like, hey, when we wanted an answer, we got it. Or we
Exactly.
knew at least that you were working on it. And to me, I always remind myself, I'm like, I may be working on several different transactions. I got my own life, in the background of every day. But when these people are looking for something, this is their number one priority. And so
Hmm.
you have to treat it that way with multiple people all the time. It's like, I know how I am. Like, if I'm like, I got to make a decision today, I need to know an answer. I'm like, please do not string me out. At least tell me, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Keep me informed. And so, you know, the biggest lesson that I tend to tell myself every day is like, just treat people the way that you would want to be treated, and you'll be doing just fine.
Oh, the golden rule,
The golden
right?
rule.
The golden rule. It goes a long ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, just be normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Just treat people the way you want to be treated. And 99% of the time, everything's going to turn out just fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that works. Thinking about buying or selling a home? I've got you covered. I've put together a free seller guide and buyer guide to help you navigate the process with confidence. Whether you're a first time buyer or a seasoned homeowner, these guides are packed with tips, insights, and what to expect every step of the way. You can download them right now by clicking the link in my bio on Instagram, or just reach out and I'll send them your way. While you're at it, be sure to follow me on social media and check out my website for more real estate tips and updates. One of the things that we talk about a lot is, me and you talk about, especially when you got into the business and you're like, hey, do you have any other real estate agents that I can contact and talk about what we offer? And, for you doing that is kind of the same as me just reaching out to a random homeowner that I don't know.
Yeah.
And that hey, I heard so and so's going to sell their house. And so I'm like, okay, it's my job to reach out to those people and
Yep.
let them know that what I can do for them. If I wasn't doing that, then I'm like, what am I doing? But I don't really like doing that much. I'm really a relationship type person. I'm like, I'd much rather have a warm introduction to
Yeah.
somebody, or I'd rather have it be somebody that I already know and be able to um, just speak to those people directly and not come off salesy.
Yep.
That's like my worst fear. It makes me cringe when I think about it that way, and I see other people in the business and they're actually successful, but that's kind of their thing, and
Hmm.
it's just not mine. And you know, so how do you how do you handle that? Like when you're reaching out to people, how do you try to come off so that you're just like, hey man, I'm just here doing my job and I'm trying to help and I want to connect.
Yeah. Well, as you know, like I haven't been in the business too terribly long, right? Like just over 2 years. And I kind of already spoke about how I got into the business, but honestly, I envision myself sitting behind a desk, putting pieces of a puzzle together, crunching numbers, like that's what I thought 80% of my job would be.
Yeah.
Now, that's the part I enjoy, Blake. That is the part I believe I'm very good at. But what I didn't realize at first was those clients that you're working with, you have to you have to go out and find them. Like
Yeah, they
they
don't
don't just
show up.
magically show up in the office and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, Josh, can you help me?" Like it is your job to go out and find them, which kind of segues me to what you're talking about with relationships. Relationships, I have found they're so important in our business, like to help one another out, right? To find people that we can serve and to find people that we can help. Because I feel like a lot of people are intimidated of us a little bit, like because it's such a large transaction. I don't know. It's hard to kind of establish that trust and convey to them, like, hey, I'm a human being. I have a family just like you do. I'm here to help you. I
Yeah.
really am here to, I'm not here to deceive you. I'm truly here to help you achieve your goals. And sometimes that message is hard to get across. But Blake, I don't use scripts. I just try and be me. I just try
Yeah.
and be authentic, genuine. I give everyone, my personal cell, to reach out at any time. I just try to establish a level of comfort with my clients, like almost like we're sitting in their living room or at a bar, wherever, But another thing too, aside from clients, referral partners, right?
Hmm.
That's a whole nother ballgame, like how to approach them. And honestly, that's been, I would say, one of my biggest obstacles because I feel like, I like to use baseball analogies since I played baseball. You need at bats, right? You need at bats,
Opportunities.
opportunities to be successful at the meat and potatoes part of the job, which is actually originating loans. But you can't originate loans without clients, right?
Yeah.
And referral partners are huge in getting clients. But for me, and if you've worked with me in the past, you know a little bit about me, you know how dedicated and hardworking I am toward the client. But if I don't get a at bats or an opportunity to show, not tell, that's difficult.
Y-
So, you know, how do I get in front of people? That's what I always thought about because, like you mentioned, cold calling. I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer, Blake. And I can't say I blame people. I call a realtor or a financial advisor and just introduce myself. Like, if they've been in the business for a while, they already have a lender that they know and trust. So, and they're very busy. Our worlds are chaotic. So, why would they want to give me, Josh, 30 minutes of their time to go grab coffee?
Yeah.
So it can be frustrating, and you're on the other side of it, right? So it can be frustrating for me because there might just be a lack of response. And when I first started, I would almost take it personally, Blake. Like
Oh,
I would get mad. Like,
I mean, to me, there's no, I mean, I'm getting better, but I mean, I have to talk myself out of that quite a bit because I'm like, I mean, we were just talking about it the other day. It's like a perfect example. Like you have the same battles that I do, maybe just in a little bit different way. But it's
right,
like, you're contacting somebody. It's even somebody that maybe even said, hey, they even reached out to me, maybe, or something along those lines. So you kind of have that introduction already. Like, hey, we're thinking about selling our house, or we want to have a conversation about it. Um, we even had a mutual client that was like planning to come into the office and all that stuff, and they kept rescheduling. And I was like, okay. So you're thinking to yourself, is it something that I'm doing, or what's the deal?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, then it just hit me. It's crazy, the things that just like you don't see right away. But it's like I told you, I'm like, it's the same thing. I have this guy from True Green keeps calling me, calling me, calling me, calling me. And it's like he just happens to call me like it's always like right when I'm in the middle of something. And I'm like, I'm not in the place right now to talk about whether or not I want True Green services in 2 months from now. And so
Yeah.
I just don't answer the phone. And
Yeah.
that's probably not right. But then I'm like, it's nothing against that guy. I 100% respect his hustle. I know that they have a
Yeah, they're
service
working
that
hard.
I could probably use. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I just don't answer it. And I'm like, that's the same thing as like if people aren't ready to go, then sometimes, and they have their own life going on, it's like it's not top of mind. The last thing that they want right at that moment is be like, oh yeah, let's go in and talk about all this stuff. It has nothing to do with me. It's just the service part of it. And so you got to be patient. You got to wait for people. But it's funny when they flip that switch, then it's like it's go time, and you better be ready to do it because now they're ready to go. They have something they want to see. They want to make sure they're pre-approved or whatever it is. And so it's just there's so many business. That's why I want to talk about this today, is because I know that there's some listeners that are either other real estate agents or lenders, or that are in sales roles, and they're trying to grow their business and have that like growth mindset, but they get set back a lot because they blame themselves or they take things personally. And it's like all you got to do is just keep looking for those opportunities, and if you can have a few balls up in the air, have some opportunities come in, then eventually those things will start turning into the meat and potatoes side of things where you start making some money.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, to earn people's trust or just to simply make an impression. Like, I feel like first impressions are big for me, and you can't make a first impression via a phone call or a text, right? Especially if it's a true cold call or text where they don't know you from Adam. So one of the things that, you know, I find is a good tool to use is to find a mutual connection with that person, because people will take meetings or people will have a conversation with people they trust, and they might not trust you yet, but they might trust that mutual connection, if that makes sense. So your True Green guy, would it be any different if this guy called you and said like, hey, I just did provided lawn care for so
Your
and
neighbor,
so,
they do
for
that.
your
They
neighbor?
literally like, I just talked to Kevin down the road.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
they
doesn't
they they know what they're doing. Yeah.
does it
Or
sway you?
the bug guys that walk around door to door, they're like, look, we've signed up, Barb down the street, she just signed up. And you're like, okay, our neighborhood.
Well, maybe it doesn't work for lawn care in a way,
No, I
but I
mean
found
that.
if you can find a mutual connection that someone trusts, they're more apt to at least, sit down, have a conversation with you.
Yeah,
Um, and also, if a phone call, text isn't working, be present in the community. Like, that's a big deal. Like, go to networking. If there's from the lending perspective, if there's an open house and you've been trying to meet with a realtor and they're hosting, pop
good
in, say
time.
hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, bring a bottle of water, do something. There's so many like networking events going on that, show up, be
Yeah.
present, right?
Well,
Because
and
then you
that's
can make a first impression, because you can tell so much, Blake, by people's body language. Like, just if they're a good person, if they can hold a conversation, do they smile, like, and you can, kind of gauge if they're someone you'd be willing to sit
yeah.
down and talk with or potentially partner with in the future, right? It's hard to do that over phone or over text.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I do this. It's like
Yeah.
I think, implementing the video side of things. I mean, there's all the things that we do, that are not even necessarily like business down to the meat and potatoes. I really like that analogy is like you're creating content, you're doing that, you're going to network events, you're going to ribbon cut, whatever it is, you're doing all this stuff. And I mean, that's why I do this. I feel like it gives people the opportunity to get to know me a little bit that are interested, and it's not pushed on anybody. That's why I go to a networking meeting every week. And what's great about that is, yes, I get to network with those people that are members of that group, but also that group is great for that one connection away. It's like, hey, do you happen, I know, so and so. I mean, there was a guy actually last week, perfect example is there was a guy on Facebook, made a Facebook post, and he's like, hey, I'm looking for a real estate agent for a friend of mine that's moving into town. Do you have any recommendations? Just put it on Facebook. And I'm not even friends with the guy, but I had someone tag me in it, and I knew some people that he knew. And
Yep.
so I reached out to those people and I was like, hey, I see so and so's looking for an agent. I don't know him that well, but if you would you reach out to him and say, hey, Blake would be a good contact for you? And those are the introductions that I like. I don't. It's
Absolutely.
like coming shooting from the hip, trying to contact somebody. You have so much to establish to build trust and to do all those things, and you have that little bit of warm connection
That
helps things
mutual
tremendously.
connection. Yep.
And I heard a quote the other day. I don't even remember where I heard it, but I'm like, this keeps coming into my head every day now. And then the quote was, "It's not what you know, it's who you know."
Yeah.
But the new quote that I heard is, "It's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you." And I'm like,
Ah, I gotta write
that
that
makes
down.
sense, man.
Taking
That makes
notes now.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, so my job is to just do what I do and spread that word as much as possible and ask my group of people to do that, and those people will come.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's, I don't know. I find that stuff so interesting because that's what I think about all the time. It's like that is the growth part of our business. And, the longer that you're in it, the more business you do. It's like nurturing the people that trusted you with their business. I mean, I think about that all the time too, is I'm like so grateful for people, even though that like I have people say, I'm like, hey, thank you so much. Like it was such like you made it so much easier for us. You did a good job. And like, that's all fine and dandy. But I think about it sometimes like months after, and I'm like, man, those people put a ton of trust in me and they had a lot of other options. And that part of it is like what I really feel is the best part of this business is like those people respected you enough and trusted you, knew what you were doing to let you handle that. And I love that pressure. That's like what makes this fun for me, which is maybe sick, but it's what's fun about it.
No, but I think too, Blake, you made a good point there because people people don't work with you because you're with whatever company or BHHS. They don't work with me because I'm with Churchill. That helps in some ways,
Yeah.
but they work with you for you, for you as a person because they know they can trust you and you're going to provide them with superior service, take the stress off them, place it on yourself. Because at the end of the day, our goal is to allow them to achieve their goals with as little stress possible. Because we both know transactions can be stressful at times. There's a lot of obstacles, and you kind of want to take that burden on yourself. But we got to be honest with it. There's a lot of good realtors out there at different brokerages in Omaha. There's a lot of great
Hmm.
lenders out there in Omaha. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, does it matter the company that you're under per se? No, like I guarantee you, past clients might remember they work with Josh Yost, did the lender, was their lender, or Blake Hunter was their realtor, but they might not remember who you worked for, like your
Yeah.
company, right? Because you're the face. You
Yeah.
are their number one point of contact. And so I think that can be the most difficult part sometimes, is just establishing that trust, because at the end of the day, we truly everyone wants the same thing, a successful transaction, and for our mutual clients to meet their goals. I mean, that's the number one priority, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets pretty deep, like it really does. But at the same time, how do you separate yourself, right? How do you separate yourself from the hundreds of other people that do the same thing? Like Blake, I know personally that you do a great job, and I can vouch for you, and maybe you could do the same. But how do you get that message out? Like, that you're ready to grind for somebody. You're ready to guide them, educate them, help them to achieve their goals. And you truly mean it. Because honestly, everyone's going to say that, right? Everyone in that business is going to
Yeah.
say that. And we know we can actually do it. But how do you get that? It's tough getting that message across
Yeah.
sometimes.
I think, I had Rich Bales on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was also in the medical device sales industry for a while and is in insurance now. And so he was talking about, that value proposition and
Yep.
how do you get that across. And, I think about that a lot. It's hard to even put that. I don't think that it is, I always used to think that there was words that you had to say, and that's what got you that value proposition. But I think it's really just in how you live your life. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I see that person is doing this and doing this. They volunteer. I see them at the gym. It doesn't all have to be like crazy, weird, positive stuff, but it's just like, oh, that's a normal person that I
Yeah.
can relate to. It goes to, hey, they helped somebody that I knew. It's there's just so many things that express that value proposition, and it's not necessarily just, hey, I can do this, this, and this. It's when that person comes and meets with you, you know what they're about from observing them. And so I think that's like, I'm like, the better version of me, the best version of me is what I need to be. And then the rest of it, just, I don't have to preach that value proposition if I'm the best version of Blake.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, obviously, communication, showing empathy is important, showing that you
That helps.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it can be stressful, right? And for me, I want to get to know the person, on a personal level, because there's so much more things than just the transaction. It's how that transaction might impact other areas of their life too. Um,
Yeah. Well, it's so much more fun. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we're making a living. It's what we do. I mean, we have the same bills to pay as everybody else, all the things. But like, it's like, if I'm going to go out and spend all this time with these people, I'd rather like know them. I mean, I'd rather get to
Yeah.
know them, and I'd rather have fun while I'm doing it. It's a serious deal. Like, things need to be taken seriously and professionally, but why not make it enjoyable? I mean, we have that option. That's what's great about it. Is like, there's a lot of jobs. You're going to show up. You're going to work 8 to 5. You know what you're going to do the next day, every day, Monday through Friday, day after day. And this job, I mean, I couldn't tell you where I'm going to end up. I mean, I have an idea where I'm going to end up later today, but that could change. And, you know, have a walkthrough this afternoon. Who knows what's going to happen at the walkthrough? Hopefully nothing. But it's like, you never know, man. You honestly never know what's going to happen. And that's what's fun. And like, I like treating it that way.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the point we made earlier, like, is buying a house a transaction? Yes. But what you just described doesn't seem transactional. It's more built on relationships, right? And how rewarding is it though, Blake, to get to the closing table, like all the work we put in to see, our clients' goals come true. I mean, the other day, It blew me away. So I was working with a client for over a year. Over a year. She had previously been under contract. The deal fell through because the seller had a change of heart, and it kind of, was very
That doesn't happen a
discouraging.
lot.
Yeah,
The
it
buyers
was.
usually do, but
I know. It was just discouraging for her, but I could just tell how badly she wanted to be a homeowner, right? She worked hard, single mom, like put in a ton of work, and she recently got under contract, closed on a home. It was in November. And again, you know, I like to maintain relationships after the transaction. So I had texted her. It was in early January just to see how everything was going. And she made a comment like, Josh, I want to thank you so much. I never thought that I would be able to host Christmas in my own home with family.
yeah,
And I was just like, think about that every day. But just hearing that from a past client, it just reinforces everything we do and why we do it, right?
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, yeah, are we putting food on the table for our families and it's what we do for a living? Yeah, it is. But to just know we can have an impact in people's lives, right, Blake?
yeah,
Like, that makes the grind worth it. That's what's motivating.
yeah,
It makes me get up and enjoy coming to work every day.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I was going to get into like some actual lending stuff today, but I feel like we covered a much more valuable topic when it comes to real estate and all the things. And if you want to talk to Josh about those things, reach out to me. I can hook you up with Josh. Reach out to Josh directly. Josh Yost at Churchill Mortgage. Josh offices in Omaha, but can help Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas people.
Yep.
Kansas native. Got to stick.
That's right.
Help those people down there. Unfortunately, I cannot help you in Kansas, but I can help you in Iowa, Nebraska. I'm sure Josh can help you find somebody down there. But
Absolutely.
thank you so much, man. Love talking to you. I always feel like you understand it, and sometimes you got to have somebody that you can kind of bounce things off of to get it off your back, because it can be taxing at times, as you know. So
Absolutely. Thanks for being that guy for me, Blake. Thanks for having me on.
sounds good, dude. I'll talk to you soon. We'll talk about those DSCR loans here in the future. We'll have you back on the pod, or we can talk about all the other good things that you have to offer. So talk soon, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Blake.
Before you go, don't forget, I have a free buyer guide and seller guide available to help you make smart real estate decisions. You can grab yours through the link in my Instagram bio, or just send me a message and I'll get it to you. And if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd love for you to connect with me on social media and my website for even more real estate insights. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time on Hunting Home.